Charter Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance, and we are joined today by Steve McMillan. He is a member of the Alabama House of Representatives. And, sir, as you know, in Alabama and throughout the nation, there is a dramatic need, and will continue to be a dramatic need, for skilled workers. And you have been spearheading the effort to ensure that in this great state. You're the vice chair of the Ways and Means Education Committee. Talk to us about your efforts on that front.
The most significant thing we've done to date, in particular in this session, is pass legislation that creates a new commission for workforce development. Right now, or prior to that, the two-year schools, post-secondary education facilities, were under the jurisdiction of the State Board of Education, which is an appointed body. And we determined that 94% of the students who attend the two-year schools are Alabama residents. And it just made sense that if we wanted to get an Alabama workforce trained and in position to go to work, to use Alabama residents as the first ones to be trained.
So
made sense.
What are you hoping for this newly appointed commission to do?
There'll still be a strong emphasis on academics. There'll still be a strong emphasis on adult education, but there'll be more emphasis put on workforce development. The State Board of Education, as it was created and operated, oversaw kindergarten through the 12th grade and the two-year schools. We felt like by separating the two-year schools and putting them under another body, that we would have more emphasis and more focus on the workforce development.
Are you looking to build more technical colleges?
We will facilities at the colleges.
I see.
Matter of fact, we'll probably consolidate some of the schools, look at attendance and the type courses that are being taught, that sort of thing.
So when these folks graduate and they have their degree or certificate in a variety of trades, one would hope they'd be able to be hired by folks in Alabama. And so often projects are put out to bid. And when they're put out to bid, there's a sense that, look, we're Alabamans, we need to take care of Alabamans. And so what have you been doing to ensure that Alabama prefers Alabama?
We've got a nation-leading group called Alabama Industrial Development Training, and they are the ones that have been doing this up until now. This will just give them another foundation to work from by having the workforce available to go for a higher level.
But when a bid is put out on a project,
when we're competing to attract a new industry.
Right. So, for example, I know that you have been spearheading what's known as a local bid preference.
Right.
Could you explain that process?
Right now in Alabama law, local governing bodies and its counties and cities have a 3% variance that if they've got a local person that's within 3% of the high
of the low bid, and even if it's within the
3% above that, they can still go with what we refer to as local preference.
Right.
This expanded that to 10% with some other criteria.
And as I understand it, it actually was fairly well thought out. When you looked at the actual locality, it increased that to 5%. But if the low bid was out of state, the local bidder could be even 10% higher.
Right, that's correct.
And so what does that do for Alabama and the local?
Well, the whole intent was to be able to give them more flexibility to do business with local small businesses in particular, and give them the flexibility to work with those and to keep the business local, keep the money at home.
Right, of course. And as chair of the committee that focuses on county government, municipal government, what have the constituency said to you? I mean, they're obviously talking to you.
Well, it was really interesting. This concept was suggested by one of the mayors in Baldwin County. And he had just had to turn down a local business and do business with a company from out of state because they were the low bidder. So when we introduced the bill, then the county government association found out about it, and it's something they wanted. So we got together, and it benefited all of us.
And the bill has been passed,
signed by the governor this week.
And it's working out well. We'll see. It just started, like you said.
I think it'll work.
You mentioned Baldwin County, and we know that Baldwin County, South Alabama, has really suffered a great deal as a result of Mother Nature. Mother Nature can be kind, but she can be fierce.
Weather events.
Yes, let's call it that. And I want to ask you, before we get into some legislation that you're proposing to help the folks of Alabama when they face weather events, what have you seen on the ground? Talk to us about your friends, your constituents, when this weather event
Well,
hits.
fortunately, it's far enough behind us now that you really don't see that much right now, but go back 10 years and it was a real ordeal for the local governing bodies, not having money in reserve. They needed to pay for some of the things, infrastructure and repair and that sort of thing. A lot of good bit of dispute with the federal agencies that came to help about
well, we remember that.
What was eligible expenditure and what was not, and come in and audit after the fact and ask for refunds. And so those kind of things I hope will be worked out.
Tell us about your friends, your constituents. I know it's been several years.
Oh, there were many that lost everything they had. A couple of people even wound up committing suicide, regrettably, because of delays in obtaining financing and that sort of thing.
But what you've been trying to do, you've been working with the realtors, is you've been trying to encourage folks and businesses, so both residential and commercial, to take affirmative steps to prevent massive damage, if you can, when Mother Nature strikes again.
Absolutely.
Talk to us about what's known as SB 254.
Okay.
It's a retrofit bill.
It basically did two things. Mobile and Baldwin counties are the two coastal counties. That's the first thing people got to understand.
Yes.
We have 67 counties, but only 2 on the coast.
Right.
So it's difficult sometimes to get other parts of the state to understand what our problems are.
Right.
They haven't had similar things, but the tornadoes that hit Alabama have brought home some of the.
You hate for that to happen, but it opens people's eyes.
But we had already passed legislation, I think it was in 2009, that gave mandated premium insurance discounts and reductions in premiums for those that had taken certain steps to improve their construction, quality of construction, and roofs in particular are significant.
But as I understand it, though, that legislation focused exclusively on Mobile and Baldwin counties.
And residential only.
And residential.
Right. Now we've come back and passed a bill that will make residential statewide and commercial in Mobile and Baldwin initially would start in 2016, reduced premiums if they meet certain requirements. And then that'll go statewide in 2018.
So why was this important to you, to your constituents, to the realtors? Well, why was this the right move?
Insurance premium discounts can amount to up to 60% of the premium.
Wow.
So it's a pretty good incentive for people that are having to replace a roof anyway because of age or some other reason. They can mitigate and replace with a roof that meets certain criteria and wind resistance and so forth.
And were your friends in the insurance industry, were they on board with
this?
They've
been very helpful. They've been very helpful. Because one of the things we had to do was have inspectors that have to look and be sure that and certify that those criteria have been met and that people are in fact eligible for the reductions in premium.
So it's been a good session for you. Is that fair?
Best I've ever had.
I was going to say, it seems like you've got a lot done this session. And
very significant.
And I congratulate you. His name is Steve McMillan. He is a member of the Alabama House of Representatives. My name is Brad Pomerance. I thank you so much for joining us on Charter Local Edition.